Hey, quick story for you here. We've seen it happen more than once here in the Twin Cities. A deal is moving along just fine, and then right before closing, a furnace issue, an electrical concern, or even a roofing question pops up. And suddenly things get stressful. That's exactly why we created our worry-free closing program at Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric. We send a licensed technician out to check the furnace, AC, electrical safety, water heater, and water softener, coordinate a roof evaluation with a licensed roofing contractor, and provide a full report on all the home's major systems. We can do this during due diligence or even before a home is listed, so potential issues get caught early. If you're a realtor or you're buying or selling a home, there's a simple way to keep things smooth. Twin Sea Heating, Air, Electric, built here, stays here.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today on Twin City Tales, I'm really honored to welcome Twila Johnson. Twila is known by many as Twila the Connector, a master connector, author, and creator of the Becoming program. With over 30 years in business development, marketing, relationship building, and purpose-driven leadership, Twila has built a reputation for doing more than just introducing people. She opens up doors, walks people through them, and helps create real connections that matter. But today, we're going deeper than networking. Twila's new work, Becoming, comes from her own life story, a story of surviving trauma, rebuilding trust, breaking generational patterns, and helping others move from survival into healing, stability, and connection. She grew up in Brooklyn Center, right here, started her career path in places like Merwin Drugs in Robbinsdale, went on to work in functional medicine, business development, and entrepreneurship. And through all of it, developed this incredible ability to read people, connect people, and help people feel seen. Today, we're going to talk about her journey, her book, The Becoming Program, shame, resilience, generational trauma, and what it means to keep moving forward even when life has knocked you down. Twila, welcome to Twin Sea Tales.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What a great intro.
Well, thank you.
You can write all my intros. How's that?
Yeah, I would love to. You grew up in Brooklyn Center, right?
I did, yeah.
And in the 60s and 70s, what kind of kid were you growing up?
In the 60s and 70s, and I want to emphasize that, right? We were basically free to kind of roam and do what kids do. We didn't have helicopter moms. We didn't have the kind of boundaries that are set today. We were free to roam the streets. When the street light went on, that's when you came home. Some families had their little dinner bell, to make sure everybody knew. And if the neighbor had the dinner bell going, you probably should go home too.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a freedom type of situation. So it was great.
Yeah, and those little Brooklyn Center neighborhoods, too, is just kind of north of Minneapolis, so that felt a little tight, too. Like, it felt very city-ish, but back then, it was considered more suburban than at that time in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn
absolutely.
Park.
And then, your neighborhood was, your block and maybe, X amount of houses in that little circle, right?
Yeah.
So if you moved a little down 3 houses too far, you might be like, oh God, I got to go back the other direction. Because it felt forever to walk down to a park that wasn't necessarily in your backyard.
And then Brooklyn Boulevard has changed so much since
Massively.
then, too. Yeah.
And
then where it cuts into Minneapolis, that gets really interesting, too, in that area. So
the Robbinsdale area,
yes.
where I raised my kids.
Okay. Yeah, and we talked a little bit about, you worked at Merwin Drugs.
I did.
Did they have the soda counter there at that time?
They had the soda counter. They still had the best roasted chicken on the planet. They actually had, chocolate sodas, but they had ice cream in them. And so, like, when you try to find something like today, you can't find it.
Yeah.
I loved working there. It was a blast.
Yeah, and that whole, that main Robbinsdale strip back in the day felt like just a little small town but still yet so close to Minneapolis, right?
Absolutely. And, people always like, oh, you lived in Robbinsdale. Like, yeah, but it's not what you think.
No.
Literally when you crossed the border into Minneapolis, things started to change pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it was kind of odd how we were this little bubble and it was kind of protected from all the stuff people thought was happening around us.
Yeah, and people didn't realize, like, right along Highway 100 there in Robbinsdale, that lake, is it Twin Lakes there?
Yeah.
That was a big resort in the 60s and 50s. Like, people would go there to, like, camp and rent out a lodge and spend time there as a recreational resort, like they would at Madden's resort up north, right?
Right. Well, consider it was so far from Minneapolis, people got to drive.
Yeah, and you don't even think about that, right? Like back then, it's like, wow, that's really far out there, Robbinsdale.
Right.
But now it's like, man, that's a stone's throw. I mean,
right?
Yeah. So, but it was really a neat, for lack of better terms, it just felt like in that area was like, It's a Wonderful Life type of
it was
of a movie set, right?
Yeah.
In Robbinsdale. So.
I ask people to, every now and then when I run into people, like, do you remember the Muni? And those people who know Robbinsdale know the Muni because it's not there anymore and it's been gone for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But it was the major staple as well as Merwin.
Yeah. I was probably a little bit, well, I graduated in 83, but the one I do remember was, and it was a state-of-the-art kind of movie facility, the Terrace.
Yep.
I mean, they had, like, in the 60s and 70s there, that was, like, the place to go for movies, too.
And you dressed up.
Yes.
You dressed up.
People dressed
I remember
up back
my mother
then.
would put me in a little dress, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, just thinking about, like, in the 70s, the Cooper Theater over there in St. Louis Park. That was, like, state-of-the-art. And, yes, people would dress up to go see a movie back then. Yeah. What was it like working at Merwin Drugs then? Like, the things that you remember about it?
Well, it was great because it was community-based, right? So you pretty much knew everybody that came in. I was lucky during the time I was there. The lottery was just coming out. And so I was sent to go learn and train on how to do the lottery at Maple Grove, at Merwin Drug, which was really fun because in the very beginning, we actually were one of the top selling stores that sold the scratch-off tickets and the lottery tickets.
Interesting.
We beat out the stores even downtown Minneapolis, which they were like blown away by. But it kind of showed me when I look back that, oh my gosh, Robbinsdale had a lot of disposable income that they were just dumping away, right?
Yep.
So we got to do that. I got to explore more into herbal medicines and things of that nature. I was sent also then to become a certified framer. So I had to learn how to put frames together and, do the matting and all that. So I was very lucky there. And the hours I worked were perfect because I was home in time for the kids to come on, when they would get done with school. And all three of my kids worked there as they got older. So it's really a family place. And
very
was.
generational.
Yeah, very generational.
So before that, and I'm just trying to get kind of an area of your timeline. Before that, you worked at Merwin Drugs. You got married at a young age. I
was married at 18.
Yeah. You were like mother early in life.
I was, yes. I had 3 kids and divorced by 23.
Wow. When you got married early, what did you think the future looked like at that time? When you were 18, 19?
I can guarantee I had this fantasy that it was going to be your classic Beaver Cleaver life. I'm going to have the great husband, the beautiful home, the perfect little children.
Yeah.
And life let me know that wasn't the way it was going to be.
It never is. I don't think life is. I think it takes a lot of twists and turns, and you never get the leave it to Beaver kind of family dynamic. I mean, there's always, everybody has some sort of dysfunction in their family, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I like doing these podcasts, because it tells people stories, right? Like, we don't always know what's behind that. And when we talked about it a little bit more during our prep, you shared a lot openly about surviving abuse, hardship, and eventually becoming a single mother. And what do you remember most about that part of your life emotionally?
That's a great question. So I don't know really how to answer that because I was in survival mode. So I didn't have time to really analyze how I felt. I just had to keep going and keep doing. It wasn't until in my very early 60s, which I'm kind of dating myself, but whatever. I started to put together what life was like for me. Because I finally stopped surviving, if that makes sense. So looking back, I was either highly emotionally charged when I was doing things, or I was the exact opposite. So I never had that middle ground. And I had very few people in my life who could help me understand any of the emotions I was having. So I had to, kind of learn on my own, and then you kind of put those in places so you don't have to necessarily deal with them.
So it's like the extremes, right? So it makes it really difficult when you're going from one extreme to the other. Some of the things that I find that you went through that, and then it sounds like you went to Merwin Drugs after that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do go through trauma and abuse, sometimes it's working through some of that confidence and the way you view yourself, right? Did that beginning? Because I feel like Merwin was one of your first jobs out of, unless
yes, like through that phase, it absolutely was one that had any credence in my world, and yeah, it did help me with confidence on different levels. I was able to, on some levels, function as Twila. Didn't really know who she was because I went, directly from my parents to a husband to a single mom with 3 kids. I never had a minute to breathe and figure out who I was truly. And you do learn some confidence. I was really good at sales. I've always been really good at sales because I think it's more about, for me, I don't sell and I create relationships. And at Merwin Drug, it was all relationship driven because you were never put in a position where you had to sell this widget thing, right? But my personality and the way I connected with people, they tended to buy more, sadly. I got them to buy more tickets, right? So those sales increased. When we found an opportunity to do framing, I'm like, pick me because I'm the one that can work with the people, So, you do learn a little bit of confidence. But at the same time, you have this other piece constantly trying to pull you back. You're not good enough. This isn't the right thing. You're never going to have the right thing to say. Even though you're proving to yourself at a point that you can do it, all of the voices are still in the back of your head.
Yeah, and that probably comes from the psychology of just the abuse and
Absolutely.
some of the things that you take day to day, what your perception is, and might not be the real truth, but it's your truth in your head that's happening, and that's what really happens with that. And so what really amazes me is like going through all that and reading some of the stuff in your book. You then became deeply involved in like functional medicine, and then nutritional consulting and business development. Where was that moment that you realized, like, I'm really good at connecting with people? I mean, I know that's a little further out, but I feel like that was the first part of your realizing this is what I do.
So the first actual realization, I think when I started working in a clinic and I was put in charge of public relations, and I had never done it before. And I had to learn how to convince people that they needed the doctor. This was chiropractic. And that was really important for them to show up for seminars, presentations, because I believe so much in the chiropractic field. It's when I think I really understood that I could connect with all kinds of different people, because I would often look around the room when we would have these rooms booked for the doctor to do his presentation, and the diversity of the people from the neighborhoods they were from, the economics. I got words today that I didn't have then, but I noticed these were people that were different, and they're in that room because I convinced them that they needed to hear what he had to say. And that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of your like transition into how you became like the master connector. Am I correct in saying
Absolutely.
that? Yeah. And, you said something fascinating in our prep call too, that connecting people isn't just about a skill set. It was more of matching personalities and energy matching too. How do you read a room in that way?
I don't have the exact words to say that. Like, I don't know people if anybody actually does. But for me, I can, and I think I'm hypersensitive to people's energies.
Okay.
Probably because of the abuse, because you have to learn to read a room. And you have a family that's maybe not always pleasant.
Right.
So you have to kind of read the room to figure out who's who's in a good mood, who's not. I'll just leave it at that. So I've learned to walk into a room and kind of just look around and feel the energy of the room. And it fascinates me, to go, wow, I was right about that person, or I was right about that, or that connection actually has created something pretty amazing.
Yeah. Do you think part of your ability to connect, because I feel like everything ties together, like your connection level went really high up there because part of it might be from the trauma. And
because you're always going. So like for me, I'm a massive overachiever, a perfectionist, all the things you don't really always want to be because they're not always that fabulous. But you never want to, you just can't have a minute by yourself because then you have to start to self-reflect. And so going and going and going. Sales, right? Sales is an ongoing process. Learning who the people are you need to connect with to increase your sales or your pipeline or the relationships. So absolutely, you keep going. You keep going, and you're constantly questioning, are you still worthy of this?
Yeah. And that's the hard part, right? Like if you're in, I feel like sales, you have to have a lot of confidence in what you're doing. And I think abuse and, especially emotional abuse can really tear that down, right? So you're really fighting another battle along with being confident in whatever you're selling. How would you describe some of that feeling, like when you start getting low on confidence? How do you push through some of that?
Well, what we call that, like even in the Becoming program, it's recognizing the masks that you wear when you walk into a room, right? Are you 100% authentic all the time? Most people aren't. And people who've suffered trauma, they have to wear masks because they have to learn how to protect themselves. Pushing through it is reminding yourself that voice in your head, that's not real. It's not real time. You could do something fabulous. In my case, I could do something that gave me lots of confidence, and I could go home and it could be torn apart within 2 seconds of walking through the door. So you don't have enough time to let it embed into your core of who you are, right? So as you're learning these things about yourself, you can start to process and take a minute, take a pause, think it through, decide, is this person or is this thing a true threat, or is this a reaction to something in the past? And so for me, that's how I can kind of get through some of those. I still get it wrong now and then, but
it's interesting that you say that, because I think deciphering it and compartmentalizing it is hard until you recognize it, right? Yep. And as we talk about this a little bit, and I don't know if it's trauma, but it's something that's said that creates your perception into your truth when it's not really the truth. And the example that I sometimes like to use is, I think my dad always said, if you think if you come up with an idea and it's going to make you $1 million, somebody's probably already done it. So
why bother?
Why bother? Exactly. Right. And I don't think they say it out of abuse. I think they say it out of, I don't want to see you hurt, right?
Well, you hope so.
Yeah.
You hope so.
But I think that happens, though, in real life, too, the other way, where they say it something like, I'm saying this to show you the power and the authority I have, right? And I never looked at it that way from my dad. But then there wasn't signs of those things that he had. Maybe a few things like, I'm telling you to do this because I'm dad, right? Yeah. But That's
do
completely
as I say,
different.
not as I do.
Yes, that's not a power trip. It's
Yeah.
just what he wants you to do. But then, unfortunately, in this world, there are people that have the power or use that power to have control over somebody, and it's very abusive. How would you be able to help somebody recognize that?
Yes, through the processes that we do. What you're also talking about is what we kind of classify a little bit as what is called generational trauma, right? Your dad probably learned that from his dad, who from his dad, from his dad. So that's all he knows to pass on to you until somebody intervenes and says, well, maybe there's a better way to say that. Maybe there's a better way to do that. I'm a firm believer that, one of the purposes of me to be on this planet is to break the generational traumas that are in my family, especially for my daughters and my granddaughters. And the more I can heal that within me, the more it could heal them or prevent it from happening to them, because they're going to recognize things. And I always told my kids, make different mistakes. Don't make the ones mama made.
Right.
Make some new ones so that we got something new to deal with, right?
Right.
But yes, sometimes it can be just straight trauma, but the person doing it may not understand that that's what it is. And I don't mean this as an excuse for anybody, right? Because we should, I hate the word should, it'd be great if we were sitting in a world where people were being educated like we're trying to do, right, about these things, so that there's an awareness. Because the minute we're aware of something, we can make different choices.
Yeah. And not that there's women that don't abuse,
of course,
that, but it tends to be more in men. Would you like to speak a little bit more about that? I'm not trying to make it sexist or anything, but I think it happens out there.
But it's a fact. It's a fact. If you want to get into some of the stats, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men suffer from some level of domestic violence. That's an incredible amount of people. That means men are being abused as well. So when I walk into a room, I can't help but I look around and I have the stats in my head. And half the time I just want to give the room a big hug. Go, you're okay. We're going to get this fixed for you, right? But you can't. So I just forgot the question. Sorry, I went off into a tangent.
No. I feel like there's more men that create that abuse, but there's still women.
There are definitely women who as well. To give you an example of that, I was with an organization at one point where the nonprofit where we went out and we did some education for signs of abuse. And one of the organizations that brought us in was one of the veterans clubs. The VA clubs, American Legion. And the men brought us in so they could be educated on the women that were part of their lives, that were the ones that were in combat, suffering from PTSD, and it taking it out on them. And the silence from a man is so much more than a woman, because there's just such a different level of shame with it. You're a dude. Come on. You can handle her.
Yeah.
What's the deal? Well, no, they're human, and they respect the fact that there's a difference between men and women, right? Men do suffer a lot from it, and they don't talk about it, and it should be okay to talk about. We were talking about how when women are together, we tend to, if someone's crying, we're just loving them up. Get it out, girl, get it out. Here's a Kleenex. What more can we do to help you? Where if a guy starts crying, the other men in the room are like, cool, man. Yeah, we got it, right? And you won't even give him a Kleenex because, then you might touch him and you might get it, right?
That's true. And most guys are like, okay, we're good. We understand you. No worries. You don't have to finish it up. You don't need to cry about it. We're all good. And I feel like that bottles it in, and you can't get that out.
And if you're talking to somebody who potentially is the abuser, that's a whole nother ball game. Right? Because they tend to deflect and, it's a whole different level.
How can you get the abuser to recognize it? Or do you think the abuser will not recognize it unless they really, really want to?
I think that's true of all humans based on whatever's going on. I think getting education ahead of time with groups, men who have groups should bring another man in who's trained in trauma, who's trained in the signs of abuse, and just have that discussion. You know,
Yeah, but you don't see too many
you
men.
don't. That's one
that are
way for
trained.
prevention. However, the other piece of that is, I'm a firm believer that if somebody's been charged with domestic violence, whether it's true or not, both parties should have to go through some form of court-ordered, honest-to-God training about what the signs and symptoms are, right?
Yeah.
Because that's one way. Maybe it'll click in somebody's head. Some people can change. Sometimes you have to find out, was this just what this person knew? My mom, God, I loved her. She was not perfect by any means, but it took me years to understand she treated me the way she did because she didn't know how to treat me any other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's painful and it's hurtful and all of that stuff. And it damaged me, but she was also damaged.
Yeah.
And so was my grandmother was damaged. So you pass these things on. And that's true for men as well.
Yeah.
We emulate what we idolize.
And I think every family goes through that.
Some form, probably.
Of some form, right.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's at least, and I'm just taking it for an example of the Asian, not all Asians do that, but there's an expectation of getting good grades, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you weren't on the A honor roll, you were basically an idiot in the family, right? Like,
yeah.
But that's not really how we see it, right? That's not the real truth. That's some of my parents' truth,
Correct.
But because I feel like I was that way, and I'm kind of having a revelation here right now, somewhat like I don't think I expected my kids to be the same way, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, I broke that trauma only because I went through the trauma and understanding that,
right.
that it's not that important. I mean, yeah, it's important to get good grades. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, you can have expectations, but are they real expectations in a world where somebody can achieve them without feeling less than? Right?
I think that happens.
Yeah.
It really does. And, and I'm not saying, but society also puts that on everybody. I'm kind of taking a little different direction.
That's okay.
But
I agree.
Society somewhat, as much as we hate to say that there's prejudgment or prejudices, right? People look at Asians sometimes and go, they just got to be naturally smart, right? Because they grew up that way, right?
Well, as little white kids, we're all being compared.
Yeah.
And so it just made us feel stupid.
To a certain
We're never going to get to that level.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but it's so untrue, right? That's not the actual truth, but that's what society has perpetuated somewhat. Right. And even like growing up, or having my kids, right? And I don't know, they were probably to have the gifts of being smart, but I think even in the 2000s, they were saying like, your kid has gifts. All your kids are really smart. I'm sure they are, but in my head, I'm going, if they're that smart, I don't want them getting scholarships. That gets expensive to send them to college, right? Let's go. Here's a Game Boy, kid. Yeah, But in a sense, I feel like there's a little bit of that already embedded in people. So when we talk about the trauma, right, the social norm, right, and I may be a little way off on this, but the guy that's got his T-shirt rolled up and the cigarette in the thing doesn't mean he's an abusive person
100%.
all the time.
Growing up, I grew up with bikers, right? Yeah. So, some of them, you probably would know some of the clubs they were a part of. And I'll tell you, in a dark alley, if there was a biker on this end and there was just some single white dude on that end, I'd be going towards the biker, right? Because they're not that, right? It's perception. So, and cultures are different. When you're dealing with domestic abuse and you're dealing with trauma and you're dealing with violence, cultures are different.
That's really interesting that you say that.
The other piece, when you're in this field of wanting to educate people, you have to tread very carefully in certain cultures. Yeah. Because what you might educate somebody on could get them killed.
And isn't their belief even like they. So the question now becomes, abuse, what we see as abuse, is it really abuse in their culture, right? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
I would say, yes, it is abuse.
But in a sense,
but it's accepted.
It's accepted. I think that's the better way of putting it, because I think, like, even in some of these countries, right, they have third and fourth marriages, but the women are still part of that family. So the first wife, second wife, third wife, right? And if you're the fifth wife, you're like the least of the
it's called a hierarchy.
The hierarchy, right? You're the lowest of the concubines in that group. So it's really interesting that is a form of abuse. But then who's to say that there's not abuse in what we deem as norm too?
Well, exactly. If you compare, like, okay, in the 1950s, let's call it 60s, 70s, like we were talking, men had control of all of the finances.
Yeah.
They still do on so many levels and so many marriages, right? So people assume abuse is merely what's happening physically to a person.
Right.
There's so much more, and it goes so much deeper. There are people, there are women that are living in, maybe these really beautiful, fancy houses, and they're perceived as having all these things, but they're trapped. They have no financial ability to get out because their name is not on anything. They don't really have access to cash, right? And it's really, and they're not going to tell anybody, because how dare they complain about their life when another woman might go, oh my God, seriously, you're living in that big, beautiful home, right?
Yeah.
So there's all this ridiculous judgment that happens, and it brings shame to a different level. So there are physical abuse, there's violence, there is financial abuse, there's emotional abuse. Then maybe after a relationship's over, then the abuse continues because now it's happening because we're using the kids. We're abusing you now. There's the financial abuse of child support. So there's so many levels of abuse, but most people only want to focus in on the physical, which is important.
Yeah.
Which is important. But the nuances of abuse, it's not paid attention to enough.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like when you started saying that, a big part of abuse is shaming. Right?
That is the core of all of the work I do. It's shame.
Yeah. And so shame, actually, the other word that comes from that shaming part is guilt, right? Like guilting somebody is actually a pretty strong abuse tactic.
Well, it is, but remember, guilt means if I'm guilty of something, that means I'm consciously able to make a different choice.
So
if I'm shaming you, now that's who you are. You are that. You are that thing, that level down here.
So guilt, you can actually change of not feeling guilty or being guilted into something. But shame is who you are, is how it's looked
it's
at
how we
sometimes.
Perceive who we are.
Right.
It's not actually who we are.
Right.
So when a child steals something from the store, you could say, shame on you for doing that. Or you could explain to them that what they did was wrong, and you're guilty of the thing that was wrong, right? But if the child now goes on in life thinking, I am a thief, I am not worthy of something, that kind of continues, and that becomes how they possibly live, right?
Yeah.
But if they're taught early enough that, hey, you had a choice.
Yeah.
You knew better. You know stealing is wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that.
So when it comes to abuse, when somebody says, oh, I just feel so guilty about what I did, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Well, that means you probably knew you were doing something wrong.
Absolutely. You're right. There is a lot of that.
The words do get
intertwined.
Get
that's what I'm saying.
Confused.
I feel like there's a lot of that. Like some of the abuse that could happen is through abusing you, through making you feel guilty, but through that guilt, you're using the shame to create that.
Because it's the shame that's the actual emotion.
Yeah. Your book had a lot of that. And so one of the things that was really interesting to me about your book was one of those stories that I read in there was you realized when you were giving birth to your son, and there was a moment where it changed your whole life when you heard him cry. Like it was 3 chords and
3 turns of the chord.
3 turns of the chord. That's the one I was remembering. And that was actually really touching to me. But that was like your turnaround moment. Can you describe that moment in that delivery room when that happened?
So I I was well, I had actually just turned 24 actually. No, just turned 23. And I was going through a divorce. My husband at the time had decided that he wasn't sure that he wanted a wife and kids. Like, okay, dude, you screwed that one up when we got married, all right? So, I was also dealing with a lot of shame from things that I had to do to survive during the pregnancy. And prior to his delivery, all I cared about was just after he was born, not wake, just let me go to sleep. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't have anything left in me to deal with this. And as I was laying in the bed having contractions, that's when I noticed that he had turned 3 times, which he did a lot of the turning, but he always went the other direction, right? So it was like, so I didn't pay attention. But when he didn't turn back, something started to not feel right inside. So I started getting very scared and very concerned. And I was trying to tell the doctors, and they're like, it's fine. You're fine. I knew I wasn't fine. And when he was born, all I saw was this blue, gray colored limp child not crying. And the mom, right? The instinct of a mother kicks in ways that you can't even comprehend. And immediately I started yelling, what is wrong with him? Why is he not crying? And next thing I know, I watched them unwrap the cord from his neck. So he was strangling as he was being born. And it was at that moment, I probably felt on some levels the most alone, but the most connected to one of my children. Because I felt at that moment, it was up to me to keep him alive. And he was my child. This was my baby. And the realization that I had choices just started flooding through me in ways that I didn't even have answers for. I just knew there was a ton of questions going on. And it was like, okay, I don't have to do this anymore. I do not have to live like I have these last few years.
Yeah. And part of that also, it's interesting that you say that that's when you realize that you really felt alone. But I feel like there was so many other stories in there that you felt alone. One of them was where you needed medication and you were living in Blaine, I believe.
Talk about somebody moving you up into the boonies back then.
Yeah. That was when the kids were still, a few kids were driving tractors to school to get to school. But you had to walk to get your medication.
Yeah.
And you were almost deathly ill.
I was very ill.
And your Mark wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got home after you got to the farm. And you got home and he was there. Mm-hmm. And he was even more abusive, which you even said made you... Bring us back to that moment, because I feel like that all ties in with so many alone moments that you have.
Well, my first pregnancy, I don't remember what you call it, but I'm sure you've heard of like women who are sick through the whole pregnancy. Okay. I forget what the thing is called. There's a name for it today. There wasn't back then. And I was literally sick, throwing up every single day, all day long. It was a terrible pregnancy. And at one point, I was laying on the bathroom floor, and it must have been bad enough to startle him because he actually brought me to the hospital. And this was before that day. And they were giving me blood transfusions, and there was just all this stuff. And I was incredibly anemic. And they also had given me some medication to suppress the nausea that I was having. And that part of the story is I had run out, and I needed to go get another prescription. And he refused to come home. I was able to dig through literally his pants pockets to find money because I had no money. Oh, yeah. And so I had to do that, and I had to walk a few blocks in August. It was hot. It was so hot. And I got the medication. A couple of times I had to sit down on the way home on the street corner and just take care of, so I could get up. But yeah, so when I finally got home, I walked through the door, and he just started ridiculing me about how horrible I looked. because I was sweating, of course, and I was white as a sheet, and I look like shit.
And you're pregnant.
And I'm pregnant, and I'm feeling like, oh God, what is happening
Yeah.
here? And then he did some screaming at me for taking the cash.
Something that you needed, knowing that you have no access to any cash otherwise.
Yeah.
Ooh, that had to have been a real powerful moment for you too, and that moment of that trauma, like, I am so alone in this world.
But because of choices I had made earlier in my life, I felt I deserved it. This is what I was supposed to go through. This was all that I was going to get in life.
Elaborate a little more on that. That's really interesting that you say that. Is it the value that you felt you had in yourself? Was that a big part of that?
100%. Yeah.
Do you think, like, when people say, well, you can do whatever you want, you can go to school, you can get out of it, is that always true, or do you feel like
it is absolutely not true? So, on one hand, he would be mad because I wasn't working. I'd go get a job and he would create it so that I would get fired, or he would let me take the car. So I was constantly living in this. I don't, like, what do I do? Just tell me what to do, right? At some point. But it's a way of control. Like you said, it's a control thing. And my whole life I was controlled like that by my mother, right? So I was controlled. And so even when I got left, because there was so much that happened up until to marrying him. I mean, even just all of that was a story. I thought getting married and getting out of that house was going to change my life.
Right.
And it didn't. It just transferred people.
Just change the scenery doesn't always.
Scenery.
Your emotional doesn't change. Your thinking still remains the same. If you don't think you're worthy enough, you're never going to be worthy enough, right? And so I feel like there's a fine line there on thinking about, is it that you're worthy enough? Because people will say, like, and I'm going back to more of the trauma of, like, what happened to, and maybe I'm getting a little political here, but Black people, right? Like in the 60s and 70s, right? I felt like society kind of said, hey, they're abusive, but they were actually put into that position of leaving their partners because they were able to get more government money, right? But they also, back in the 60s, they would also put them in one area. Like you could not buy a house in an affluent neighborhood until after the 60s, which is really interesting, right? But that's a form of abuse that I'm thinking that happens somewhat with what you're talking about, that generational
100%.
abuse.
And keep in mind, it people want to put it on the color and all of that. Really what that was a financial decision, right? Let's make this piece of this neighborhood the only ones that are going to get help with housing, right?
Right.
And then you have to match that to the population who needed the help.
Yeah.
I came from a middle class family, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I should never have needed help, according to society.
Right.
Right. But because of the things that I needed to do to survive and to take care of my children, I got lumped in with that attitude.
Yeah. But then it brings you to that mindset, like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. This is who I am, which is really sad. And people don't always understand that that's how generational trauma gets created, right? Like, when I was younger, I think, and it was a wrong way to think, but one of the things that I always thought of, my mind has changed a lot from there, but, people will say, like, well, the Black community, I'm using the Black community because I feel like there's a lot of abuse that happens in that community, not just within themselves, but within other people too that create that. But one of the things that my belief when I was younger is, like, why are they talking about slavery? That was like 100 years ago, right? But the generational trauma from that creates more trauma and more abuse is what I'm seeing more. I mean, just because you don't have the slavery anymore, the forefathers, the people that was enslaved, still have that trauma from that, and that gets passed down. I think the Native Americans also have that same kind of trauma, right? But you parallel that with women who have had generations of trauma, whether it be an abusive alcoholic husband, or and that's what they see, and that's what they continue on. Is that what your book kind of not alludes to? Because I know it's a lot of your story, but I feel like it runs a lot of parallel with that.
There is parallel. I can't speak to any other cultural, the cultural piece of that, because that's every one of us through our culture have our own stories and feelings about what that is. Is there parallels? 100%. Can I relate to a woman of any color or any culture that's gone through what I've gone through? Absolutely. That's not the thing. That's not what's talked about. It's what's talked about is what happened, how did it affect us, how did we survive it, and what did we do to keep moving forward? Right?
Yeah.
And so for me, are there cultural things that happen? Absolutely. But even with the work we do, we don't even have to get into that, because that's not the primary focus of trying to get deeper into the things that created the trauma in the first place, which the majority of it really is stuck in our bodies.
I can see that. But you still need it's so complex, right? And so you need some of the details of other things that are happening that create that trauma also.
Not necessarily.
Really? Okay.
No, and the kind of work that we do, we're not therapists. We don't have people relive their stories. One of my things with therapy personally, because this is for me, I'm not saying that people should not do therapy. For me to go into therapy, I tried it a few times, and every single therapist wanted me to keep reliving the trauma I went through. How does that help me? How does it help me to keep telling you about the time I got beat up?
Do you think part of it is we've learned that reflection, not reliving it, but the reflection of it gives us a better chance of understanding it so that we can improve ourselves? I'm not saying that that's right.
It might help you or the therapist to try to understand it. But if I have to repeat my trauma, I'm reliving it every single time I say it. Yeah. So it's just embedding it deeper and deeper and deeper into the core of who I am. So really, it's more about when you think of that trauma, where are you feeling it in your body? What's happening? And then take that and help them understand that they're safe now. Now you're safe.
And that's it feels blurry.
It is blurry, especially for somebody who doesn't understand trauma or has never been through trauma, right?
Yeah.
And, the work that we're doing, it may not be for everybody, right? And that's okay.
Everybody learns differently.
Healing is a very personal thing. Whatever your journey is, that's your personal thing. I just know that after 50 years, everything that in my book and in our program, those are the things I did to help me.
Yeah. So there is something there. Yeah.
And they work. And it's working for the women that are using the program with us.
Absolutely.
And it's yesterday was kind of a fun day, but also like I was literally in awe all day with the things that were happening to us. We now have this incredible advisory board that is helping us build the Becoming program. The people that are on the board are just like, I'm just like, wow, they said yes, right? Like, this is so cool. That was amazing yesterday. And then with the gals who've been through the program, last night was their 10 week, and just in awe of the changes that we've gotten to see in them. And to know that my life, telling the story and creating that program is actually valid and it's helping others is beyond. Like I sit in awe.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to talk to some of the people that have started that with you or been with you on that, and it's a huge transformation. I want to bring back the book a little bit. I know that it was 15 years kind of. You had it like going through it, but not really, really writing it down. What was the turning point? Like, I'm going to write this all down now and get this out there.
So that's a fun story. I joined ABI with Marion Cook over at Archstone Workspace. And I
She's fantastic, by the way. Her story is amazing also. We had her on our podcast.
She is the greatest human on the planet. She's such a big part of this whole thing. So I went into the ABI because I was transitioning what I was going to do with my business. You know, I started to do the Twila, the connector, and, you know, I was out there networking and marketing and doing it. And I thought, okay, well, I keep doing everything by myself. I'm going to finally, for the first time, well, not really the first time, but go into this group. And a few weeks into the group, you know, I felt stuck. And I just randomly had said, you know, one of the other gals was talking about a book that she was writing. And I said, yeah, I've thought, I've got this book, you know, I've been working on it for a few years. And all three of them just looked up at me and said, well, what's the book about? So I kind of explained it a little bit. And I said, it's not really meant to be published. You know, I had some pushback from my family. They didn't want me to write it. And so I let that just sit on the back burner, right? For about 15 years.
Wow.
And then the next thing I know it, they're encouraging me to finish it. As I'm finishing the book, I'm now also writing the program for the Becoming program, the Becoming method. And by the end of our ABI, we had the book ready to go. We had the program ready to go. Tracy came on board as my partner, Tracy Fallon.
Yeah.
Who is an amazing coach.
She is.
And Marion. And that's how it all came to be.
Wow.
So the book, yeah.
You know, it caught my attention when you started saying that, because like when you were doing, because I first met you about 1.5 years ago when you were really pushing the Twila, the connector and stuff like that. And what really kind of stuck out to me all of a sudden was like, when you were doing that alone. Like you, and I feel like from reading your book, you were like, that was your trauma. Like the only way you would survive and make it through things is depending on yourself alone, right? But it can go the other way also. Like, I don't need these other people. I can always just do it on my own. And if I depend on somebody, that's going to put me in a bad position again. But now you opened up to the group or other people, which is amazing. What was there a moment where you realized that that's what it took?
Yes. In the moment was when I finished the first draft of the book and gave it to the ladies. And once I did, I literally just broke down in tears and sobbing at the table right there at Archstone and realized that I had 3 people that unconditionally believed in me. And the crying was more allowing myself, God, here I go, allowing myself to accept that and trusting that they're my people. And they are.
It took you a lot of work to get there.
I have the first time ever truly where I let that happen. Even with some of my closest friends that are in the book, they're still my friends, thank God. But these women have come into my life at the perfect time. And we are doing this together. Like, I'm not doing this by myself.
Yeah.
My book launch is Twila, but it's because of these ladies.
Wow.
It's, the Becoming program, I wrote it, but this is a team effort.
Wow. It's really about community. I think that's what we as humans need to remember. It's about community. It's about hearing the stories. It's about empathizing and really understanding. And if we could have more of that in this world, there'd probably be a lot less abuse, right?
I believe that too. Yes. And, to be fair, my whole story isn't all horrible stuff. Like, I think I'm a pretty funny person. And I like to go out,
No, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't say you did. Was kind of like all these stories and it brings it all together, like who you are as a person, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And just coming through all that. And now you're at a space where this is who you really are, not truly what you were You weren't who you really were when you were 24 years old and going through all that. But you needed to go through all that to be who you are today, which is amazing.
The masks have been dropped.
Yes, yes. It's pretty heavy. And with that, why don't we take it to a break?
Okay.
At Twin City Tales Podcast, we believe in strong communities are built by people and organizations willing to care for others. That's why we are proud to support Hammer and NER, an incredible Minnesota nonprofit helping adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities live life to the fullest. Their work creates opportunity, dignity, independence, and connection right here in our community. If you'd like to help, Hammer and NER is always looking for volunteers, advocates, and donations to continue their mission. I am one of those people that highly help that community out. Learn more, get involved, or give back at hammer.org. Together, we can continue building a stronger, more compassionate community for everyone. Ever walk into a house and flip a switch and have no idea what it actually does? Like, is it a light, an outlet, or something in the garage? Nobody knows. Or what about when you plug in something into an outlet and it just slowly falls out like it's giving up on life? Or worse, the outlet just doesn't work at all. Well, we see that stuff every day. At Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, we help homeowners take care of those small electrical issues before they turn into bigger problems. Loose outlets, dead plugs, mystery switches, we'll track it down, fix it right, and make your home actually work the way it's supposed to. So if something feels off electrically, it probably is. Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, built here, stays here, feel the difference. If you're enjoying this episode, do me a quick favor. If you are listening to it and or watching it on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. It seriously helps us reach more amazing people across the Twin Cities and beyond. If you're on Apple, Spotify, and feeling really good about our podcast today, drop us a rating or a review. It only takes a minute, but it makes a huge difference in helping new listeners discover Twin City Tales. That's how our community grows. In any case, at least smash that like button on any of those platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Twin City Tales for some behind-the-scene moments and some episode updates and special announcement and all the fun stuff you sometimes don't get to see on the mic. We appreciate more than you'll know. And remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong on Twin City Tales Podcast. And now we've come back to the portion with Twila Marie Johnson.
Twila Marie, yes.
Do you go by Twila Marie Johnson or just Twila Marie?
Well, interesting story. Through my journey of healing, I was working with a numerologist.
Okay.
And she told me for me to be successful, based on the numbers, I should always use Twila Marie. So it's only been a couple of years that I've started using it professionally.
Are you superstitious a little bit?
Superstitious? Nope, I'm not superstitious.
Really?
No.
Because it sounds a little, the numerology sometimes feels a little, and I'm kind of superstitious. Like numbers are important to me.
You'll see that when you get through the chapter about, my journey, my healing journey.
Okay.
That's in the second half of the book.
Okay. I have to admit, I love the number 8. That's my number.
I'm a number 9.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like 8 is more like an infinity.
Infinity, yeah.
And then it also is a big one for the 8 for Chinese people. They just love the 8, I guess.
Yeah.
Majority of them. So
yeah.
So these are some of the pictures that I was able to get. And the first one I actually kind of like because I wanted to post this up because it's what your book looks like, but that's how you've been marketing your book, I believe.
No, that actually is not the cover of the book.
It's not. The book is this. I know that.
That is the book, yeah.
But it's a little bit.
We started out with that. That was the original cover, and before the book was published, I went through. I almost didn't publish it. I almost scrapped the whole project, and I became very uncomfortable with the fact that my face was on the book.
Oh. Interesting.
So that was the original cover, and then we changed it to this cover. And once we took my face off of it, I was far more comfortable in getting it published.
What was it about having your face on the cover?
I don't I think I felt really exposed
Oh, interesting.
in a way that was going to be different. Like, it's a book. It's going on Amazon, you know?
Yeah.
And where most people are like, oh, look at me all over the place. I'm like, let's just take it off and see what happens. And when we took the photo off, it made a difference.
Interesting, the psychology of it. Because I feel like when I first started doing this podcast, I had a tough time with my voice. I don't know if I like it, right?
Yeah.
But once it got going, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
But when you talk about a picture on the book, I probably have a tough time too because I feel like I have a face for radio. So that's why I do the podcast, and we have it on video. But
well, and in my world, I'm the promoter of other people. So to
Oh.
promote myself as well is very uncomfortable, right? And that's part of that whole craziness of, you know, being in an abusive situation for so many years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah.
You know, you know, my looking at my face on a screen makes me uncomfortable because it exposes me. Like, that's me.
Yeah.
You know, that's me.
And you walk a fine line somewhat before, because in sales, you have to have the confidence of, this is me. Look at me. Look at me. I'm
But
selling
I'm selling
me.
somebody else's things, not
You
my
are,
things.
but you're also selling you to sell somebody else's things. That's what
True.
I believe in when you sell. It's not
I was
always
hiding the thing.
the product.
You know, there was a mask there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because yes, I believe, and this is somewhat of a business podcast too, but I don't believe, and I'm going to go back to heating and air somewhat. I'll tell you right now, yes, we sell heating and air equipment, but that's not our number one thing. Our number one thing is we sell Twin City Heating and Air Electric. We sell who we are. We sell our dependability. We sell our service. We sell we're built here locally and stays here, right?
Right.
Because if you want to buy a furnace, you can buy one from somebody else. It's just a product, if that makes sense. But I really impose on my team, like, look, you have to show up every day as you and who you are, and why you work here is because that's who they're buying.
Yep.
They're not
Completely
buying
agree.
the product so much. They're buying what Twin City Heating and Air stands for. So
It's a weird thing.
and it's a dynamic because you have to have
It
that
is.
confidence. Go,
Yep.
look at me. This
Yep.
is what we do, right? And I think people have a tough time when you ask them, "Hey, tell me a little bit about yourself." A lot of people have a tough time, like bragging about themselves. But they always tell you when you go in an interview, brag about yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting that when you said that, you had a tough time with that. So, no, awesome. I mean, that's kind of great that you told us the story behind that. So this one, you were at Loveland Pass, the Great Continental Divide. What was that trip about?
So that trip I was flown out there to do a seminar. And we had this famous doc that was coming out there to Colorado, and I was staying with one of my coworkers, and she took me up there, and I was just blown away. And through that time, we were going through a transition in the company that I was working for, which is very common in functional medicine, nutraceuticals. And we were all just trying to figure out what the next steps were. You know, were some of us going to get let go, you know, that type of thing. And so she brought me up there, and we just sat up there and did a lot of meditating type of thing. And it was really cool.
That's a beautiful area, too.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. I've been through there. It's pretty cool. And I like this one. It's you and the sheriff.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Tell
I
us a
love
little
her.
bit more about that.
So one of the people that are my partners is Perkins Media Group, and we were doing, that's a promo video for Conversations That Count, which is a lunch that I do every few months where we bring in some women to talk about their stories. So although she is an incredible sheriff, she came and she talked about her life journey, about who she is, what brought her from point A to point B. And because that's like that's the part that matters most to me, as a person's journey and story. And so that is us doing a promo video with her.
Okay. Yeah, and I've got to hear her speak at the North Metro Chamber. She's an amazing woman. being the sheriff of Hennepin County. I'm sure she has a lot of challenges. So
She does. She actually does. But how she rises above it is such a great example of what women can do.
right.
And she's up for election again, and she's got some challengers. And I just hope she really makes it.
Yeah.
I think she will.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And let me see here. I'm going to take you back a little bit. And we're going to go to this picture. Is that your daughter?
That is actually my granddaughter.
Oh, that's your granddaughter.
It's my oldest granddaughter.
This is more recent then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the photos that we have are in a storage unit right now.
Okay.
Because I moved from this massive house to this apartment. But that's my oldest granddaughter.
Okay.
She is now 24, living in Utah.
Wow, that must have been pretty fun times when you were taking those.
Beyond. Yeah. So she's the first grandchild. So, when you have your firstborns, there's a different type of relationship and love you have with them because they're the ones that now have created your legacy. So she and my oldest daughter just have this, they're my firsts.
Yeah.
And, they establish a different kind of legacy. And I'm blown away when people are like, oh, I don't feel that way. I'm just like, how can you not? How can you not feel that way about your firstborn?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're better or less than or whatever. They're your first.
Yeah.
Like your first kiss, your first date, your first prom, your first car, your first job, your first child.
Yeah. And it's interesting because your first child, it just seems like at least what happened with us, our first child, all the pictures in the world. Like you're taking pictures left and right. Second one, a little bit more, but not as much as the first one.
And the poor third.
Third one, Dan. He was always trying to mug for the cameras because he didn't get enough of it because he's the one. Yeah. Or that first kid, when you put him in that ball pit back in the days when they had ball pit at McDonald's, like you're telling other kids to stay away from him, right? Like he's so little. He's 1 to 2 years old, right?
Right.
Stay away from him, right? And the second kid, you're just like, watch your brother, make sure, and you keep an eye on. The third one, you just throw him in there, like, all right, have fun. We're out of here.
Same, exactly. Well, my girls are 10 and a half months apart.
Okay.
So, I was pregnant basically for 2 years straight. And so it's just, and they are different. They're exactly opposites, both my girls. Yeah.
But that's the fun about life, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't it just seem like the days are long, but the years are short?
Yeah.
And the advice I always give you young kids out there that are having families, enjoy them while they're young, like when they're 1 month to 5 years old, because it just gets faster and faster. The days seem long when you're out there with them, feeding them and keeping one eye open because they're just crazy at that time of terrible twos and the crazy threes. But those times are so short.
They are. But then when you have the grandchildren, you get to relive it in a different way.
I know, but grandchildren are never guaranteed. That's the only thing.
Well, thank God I have a family that likes to have children.
That's good. That's good. And then this last one, I'm really going to go back in time.
That's my graduation picture.
That is from high school, huh?
Yeah.
From Park Center.
Yes.
You were a pirate.
Yes, I was. In more ways than one.
More ways than one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, And we were,
You know what?
And that's not a very happy girl there.
Oh, you were going through some troubled times there.
Yeah. It was,
Because that was right before you got married pretty much. And, and not 100% sure sometimes, right? Like, is this where my life's going?
Yeah. And shortly after this, that's when my little brother got sick too.
Oh.
Yeah. What
happened there?
He died of leukemia.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm
so
so
that's
sorry.
in the book too, because that's a story that's, looking back, and I talked more in depth in the book about it, but, looking back, that whole thing of going through my brother getting sick and dying was one of the reasons I left my home to get married. My parents did not take it well. I didn't know how to help them. We had nobody helping any of us really go through it. No counseling, no nothing. And my other brother is 12 years younger than I am. And I did not know this until he was about 40. We were talking one day and he told me that he actually resented me because I left him there to take care of our parents at 12.
Wow.
And I didn't think of that at the time.
Yeah, it's not
at
like,
all.
yeah, you're trying
and
to
I think about it now,
navigate.
and it breaks my heart that he, I had no idea. Never thought to ask him.
But
what was
knowing
going on
that
with
moving
him.
forward, though, it can create a stronger bond all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're good, my other brother and I.
Yeah.
But this was a really difficult time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
So this makes it an even odder question, but it's still part of what I always like to hear because there's a lot you didn't know back then that you know now. And when you say she was very troubled at that time and just all these challenges, if you could go back and step back one day and say, hey, Twila, 18-year-old Twila, this is what you need to know. What advice would you give her?
What advice would I give her? That's a good question.
Would you have her change anything like through life? Because I feel like
the cliche is no, right? Because I wouldn't be where I'm at, blah blah blah, kind of stuff. But it's actually true. Even though I went through a lot of things, I still had friends in my life, right? I still had a level of confidence of things. I still had hope that things were going to be good at some point in time. I never gave up hope. Ever. And sometimes it felt like the more I had hope that things were going to change, the worse it got. I would hug her very tightly, but I don't know that I would tell her anything different.
Stay half glass full when you can.
Yeah.
It's so easy to say it.
That's
but
kind of how I've lived my life, Of course, I've had my times where I'm like, I'm just going to throw the damn glass. Right? I'm going to whip this sucker across the room.
Right.
But for the most of my life, I've tried to always be very optimistic about things.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do sometimes when everything's coming down at you, and everybody has different ways of reacting to it, right? And the one thing that I always understood sometimes is like, or try to keep, no matter how bad it gets, right? Somebody's struggling even harder than me. And
that's true.
I feel like that sometimes gets me through enough, right? And I think the other thing that I'm promoting more and more is just be grateful of something, just be thankful of something, right? It could be something as small as, I'm so glad I have a car, even though it's an older car, I can drive it to the store and get my groceries and not get rained on when it's a rainy day out, right?
Yeah, and for years and years and years, I can't even tell you how many years, I go in and out of, practices every morning, but one of them is making sure I put down at least 10 things that I'm grateful for every day.
Every day?
Every day. Every day. Because I wanted to set my brain for the rest of the day. Because when you do go into those places, you've written it down, you can pull it back up in your head, and then the smallest one might be the one that actually pulls you out of the thing.
Oh, interesting. I've never tried that. I might have to try that one. I've actually worked on every week. I've been sending a gratitude note to my family members, like my kids, just to make sure that I remember, like, it's just the things we need to be thankful for that gets us through, right? Because, again, the years are short, but the days are long sometimes, and we forget that.
Yeah, I love that you do that. That's special.
I'm really trying. It's only been 3 months straight, but
only 3 months? That's 90 days.
That's
a
starting.
long time.
It's getting
That's
there every week, so I'm working on it. I sometimes miss a day, but then I do it the next day. But it's a week. Once a week I do it. So no, I think it's great. Who is someone you would love to hear and see on this podcast?
Oh. Well, of course, we were talking about Sheriff Witt.
That was what I was hoping to hear you say.
She would be so phenomenal on here, but the most important piece about her is her story.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to talk about the cool things she does as a sheriff.
Yeah.
Some of the things that's not so cool that she has to do as a sheriff.
Yeah.
I was educated that there's a difference between jails and prisons.
Oh yeah, I know
Because I
about
called
that.
it the same
Not
thing.
that I've lived
and,
it.
oh my God,
I
was
know.
I corrected?
There's
They are not the same.
No, they aren't. They are not.
But her story of her life is amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So I would highly encourage that.
I would love to get
And
her
I
on
would be
the show.
happy to get you that connection.
Yeah, we should.
Absolutely.
I've seen her speak at the North Metro Chamber, and she is
Yeah.
very well spoken and just a fascinating speaker too. So I would love to bring her on
Yeah.
at some point.
Absolutely.
No, I would love a connection. That'd be fantastic.
Done deal.
All right, let's get that done. And before you go, we're kind of winding our show down, and I have some departing gifts for you.
Oh.
Actually, I forgot one, but now that I think about it, we'll start with,
There.
of course, you get the mug
Okay, love
from
it.
Twin City Tales,
Love it.
and your very own trophy,
Oh my gosh, I love
because
it.
you are valued here. You are amazing, so thank you. And one of the things that I love about talking to you, actually being the connector that you are, and I think after you told me you write thank you, what you're thankful for, 10 things, but it always starts with a beautiful mind, right?
Aww.
And little crocheted beautiful mind, and this comes with it too, because I think.
So did somebody make these for you?
No, it actually
Gorgeous.
you can buy them online, but
So
it's
cute.
I bet you they do make them somewhere. So that's a little card that goes with it.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And of course, one of the things that you told me is on your bucket list is Italy.
Yeah.
So I got you a little dream book, National Geographic of Italy.
I love it. Thank you.
And it tells you a little more about the different places
I love
of
it.
Italy. So
Thank you.
yeah, my pleasure.
That was unexpected. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And, I can't thank you enough for you coming on the show. I know your book, you can buy it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Just look up Becoming Twila Marie
Twila Marie Johnson. Because
on there.
Johnson's uncommon.
That's right. That's right. And it's kind of funny because my first wife was Johnson.
Got it.
So, and if you want to learn more about Twila, you can go to her website at twilatheconnector.com. That's Twila spelled out, the THE connector.com, or just visit us on Facebook and the Twin City Tales Facebook page, and we'll post it on there. And as we move on out of here, I want to say thank you to Chris Hockey for the use of his song. Thanks again, with no pun intended. And this podcast is powered by Twin City Heating and Electric. And until the next Twin City Tales podcast, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this